Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. Appreciate you all taking some time out of your afternoon to be with us for a brief webinar about one of our most prized partnerships with BDS Analytics. We'll get started here shortly, but I just wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Jeremy DePasquale. I'm the membership director here at the National Cannabis Industry Association. And we have Andrew Farley with us, who's the account manager over at BDS Analytics. And he's going to be walking us through this platform. And for those of you who may be joining us for the first time or just not familiar with the BDS Analytics service, Andrew will be taking us through that. This is a benefit of NCI membership. So this is a service that we have partnered with BDS to offer as a member benefit. So if you already are a member and you're not familiar with this service, welcome. We're excited to show you more about this and how it can benefit you as a member. If you're thinking about becoming a member, this is a great time to take a look at one of our major member benefits. So we have our contact information up here. Feel free to reach out to us at any time. Also, for those of you joining us, feel free to use that chat window below to ask any questions. We'll get through as many of them as we can, depending on time. So with that, I'd love to hand it over to Andrew Farley of BDS Analytics to show you a little bit more about the platform and how it can benefit your business.
All right. Thanks, Jeremy, for the introduction. And hello, everybody. My name is Andrew Farley. As Jeremy mentioned, I'm an account manager here at BDS Analytics. And today I'll be walking you through one of your NCIA membership benefits, which is access to our GreenEdge retail sales and consumer tracking platform. So today we'll look at best practices of navigation through the system. I'll show you some different ways to maximize the use out of your access. It's a really powerful market analytics platform, so we'll try to make the most of it today. Now, most of our session is going to be conducted via a live demonstration of the system. Before I do that, though, I do want to make sure you all have a good understanding of exactly what BDS Analytics does and how it can benefit your business. So I'll move on here to the next slide. Okay, so in short, BDS Analytics is the #1 total market analytics and insights provider for the cannabis industry. And our insights and data span really across 3 divisions of BDS Analytics as shown on this slide. So the middle part of the screen is what we'll be focusing on today. That's our most well-known service, which is our retail sales tracking data. So that's the offering that helps you understand which categories and brands and items are selling the most in a given market. So helping you answer questions like what is selling best and how much of it is selling, or when or where is it selling. So that's our retail sales information. Just above that is our consumer insights division. So that is the division that provides us with insights like who is buying cannabis from a demographic perspective. What are people's attitudes and beliefs towards cannabis? Different reasons for consuming, preferred methods of consumption. So that's our consumer insights. And then our final one down at the bottom, market intelligence, or what we call over here the industry intelligence division, really focuses on higher level, more macroeconomic projections and extrapolations of where current legal markets are today and where they will be in the next 5 years, both nationally, any state that has some sort of legal program in the United States, and then as well as we're up to almost 40 different countries now where we have that service. So, so as I mentioned, we'll focus mainly on our GreenEdge point of sale data today. Before we jump into that, I want to take a quick pause and just go through here our methodology so you feel confident and comfortable understanding where the data is coming from and how we're using it. So this retail sales information, of course, is best brought here and published on our GreenEdge platform by partnering with existing retailers in the markets that we track. So what we do is go out and partner with around 20 to 25% of the legally operating dispensaries in each state where we have a presence. So when we partner with those dispensaries, what that means is that we're able to tap into their point of sale systems. We can aggregate their data on our back end. We have a team here of about 15 or 20 or so production researchers that help us to import that data. They clean it and code it to our product catalog. We then apply algorithmic math on top of that data to project it or extrapolate it up to 100% of the total state market. So all the data you see in the system will come directly from retailers and then is extrapolated up to represent the entire state market. And so when we make those projections or extrapolations, we of course have algorithms that we've developed over here that are intended to get us to an accurate representation of the markets that we track. Now, we do use some other data resources to ensure that our math is calculating correctly, really just quality control checks to ensure that our algorithms are accurate. So some of those other resources include things like state tax data, medical patient count, retailer license count, and even just auxiliary brand data that we find and come across on social media pages and brand websites to help us understand packaging and product portfolios and assortments. So all of those types of things fit together really like pieces in a puzzle that we create or assemble on a monthly basis that ultimately gets us to an accurate read of the markets that we track. So we usually find ourselves within around 1 to 2% of accuracy from the state tax data. So we've gotten pretty good at doing this over the years. And that's really just a methodology in a nutshell. So I'm going to jump out of our presentation here and jump into the actual system. So give me 1 second while I do that. Okay, so this is the home page of our GreenEdge platform. And this is the page that you'll see when you log in every time to the database. There's just a couple things I want to touch on here at a high level before we jump into the navigation piece here. So the first is where we are as a company and where we're headed next. And then I also want to talk about what you would have access if you're not currently an NCIA member, or what you, if you already are an NCIA member, what you currently do have access to. So the map on the left side of the screen does a good job of visualizing really both of those ideas. So there's 6 states that you see highlighted in green here. These are the states where our retail sales tracking platform is accessible. So we are in California, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, Arizona, and our most recent market that we launched was Nevada. And as other states begin to legalize and build out retail programs, we'll of course be moving into those areas as well. So we're keeping a close eye on places like the Midwest, the East Coast, certainly up into Canada. And our total goal is to get to a total view of the cannabinoid industry on a global scale. So as we continue to expand out, please keep us in your thoughts, and we will continue to expand into those other areas and help develop your business needs across the United States and the world. Now, with your access, if you're currently an NCIA member, you have access to this NCIA Reports tab. The level of detail that you are able to access through that membership is category level information across all 6 states where we have a presence. So no brand or item level detail. If you are interested in gaining that level of access, feel free to reach out to me and we can have a separate conversation about that. But we'll really focus on NCIA membership benefits today and focus on that category level access. So we'll spend all of our time through this NCIA Reports dropdown. We'll focus on 2 of these dropdowns specifically, dashboards and tabular reports. So we're going to start with dashboards. I'm going to go to our category overview dashboard, but just so you get a sense, the dashboards are a good place to go to get very visual information and very interactive information. So the intention is that you see kind of an executive summary style view into the data. So we'll give this page just a second to load. And when it's done loading, I want to just take us through a quick tour of this page, and we can start to dissect what we see on the screen. So there's a map in the middle of the screen. There's some numbers below it. There's some charts below that. So all of these different things that you see on the screen here are called widgets. And the data that's behind each one of these widgets can be downloaded and used outside of the system. So if you prefer to visualize something a little differently than how we have, or you're creating a PowerPoint presentation, that's an easy process to get this data outside of the system and into something like Excel or PowerPoint. So we'll focus on this widget as an example here, the dollar sales by category level 2. Category level 2 is one of the levels in our product hierarchy, and I'll talk more about what that means in just a few minutes. So to download this data, easy process to do. I'm just going to go to the top right corner of whatever widget I want to download. You'll see 3 little vertical dots right there, and if you click on those dots, you get this option to download an image or a CSV file. So the image is going to give you a screenshot of this graph. It'll be like a JPEG file or a PNG file, nice for just kind of dumping into a PowerPoint presentation. The CSV file will take the data that feeds this chart and dump it into a pivot table ready format within Excel. So if you want to create a different chart or a graph, or you've created some internal reporting and you just want to feed some raw data into it, that's a good way to get this data into something like Excel, that CSV file functionality. So we can use the data outside the system. We've also incorporated some cool functionality within the system, one of which is the ability to interact with these widgets really well. So as you can see, I'm just hovering over each one of these pieces of the pie. When I do that, there's a little white box that appears with a little bit more information just below my mouse, lets me know exactly what I'm looking at. I can also click on anything I see in here. So if I click on that concentrate piece of the pie, we're going to see the system's going to start to load for a second. And when it's done, we'll see that that piece of the pie kind of sticks out from the other pieces here, indicating to us that now we've updated this entire page, not just this individual widget, but all of the widgets above here and below here. All of this stuff on this screen now reflects sales of concentrate items. So it's just easy to look at something on a chart or a graph and say, huh, that's interesting to me. I want to explore that a little bit more. Clicking on whatever piece of the pie or whatever bar in a bar chart or point on a line graph, all of that stuff will allow the database to update based on that click, and you get this whole analysis that updates for you right on the page. So that's one way that we're able to customize what we see on our screen. The other way, of course, to do that is through these filters along the side of the screen. So I have the opportunity to customize things like my time period, my geography through our state and channel filters, our product mix through our category level 2 filter. So there's only 4 of these filters here. Let's just take a quick minute and go through each one of these, and I'll show you how to navigate through them, nuances within some of them. So we're going to start with our time period filter. I'm going to click on that pencil icon in the top right corner, and that'll bring up a bigger box just to the left, and now I can customize my time period to exactly what I want. So the top checkbox here is going to deselect everything or select everything if you click it again. You can click on individual years to give you a total. If you don't want to look at data by year, you can click on right where it says years. That's going to turn into a drop down with options to look at data by quarter, by month, even by week and day. So we can get very specific with our time period cuts here. Let's see, for today's session, we'll go to quarters here. We're going to start to set up kind of a real life business case scenario. And I'll start by selecting Q1 of 2018. So we'll start to set up a real life case scenario in this system, and we'll start to take you through different use cases of how you can use the data and how it can benefit your business. So we'll start with Q1 2018. I'll click on OK to apply that change to the database, and you'll see that the data will quickly update to reflect that time period. We can move on down here now to the next 2 filters, which are geography specific. So if I click on that pencil icon next to the state filter, you guys will see all the states you have access to, which is all 6 of them right now. For our purposes today, let's focus on Colorado. So I'll check Colorado, click OK. Now our channel filter is the opportunity to divide each one of the states that we track into smaller geographies. So most of the time that cut is adult use versus medical. So you have the opportunity to do that, look at those markets in conjunction with one another or independent of one another. So we're going to keep this as include all, and we're looking at the entire state of Colorado, not just adult use or medical. And then our final filter here is a filter that allows us to break down the total sales in the dispensary by specific category. So right now I'm clicked on concentrate. That's what we clicked on earlier in the demonstration. But I can look at accessories or devices or edibles or flour, pre-rolled joints, sublinguals or topicals. So a bunch of different category options that we have available to us here. Let's see, those ideas can be broken down even further through the, into different sub-segments of each one of these categories. I'll show you how to do that a little bit more visually in just a few minutes. Let's start just by adding everything back in here. So we're looking at the entire category, and I'll apply that change. And once this loads, we can start to take just a quick, another tour through the page, and we can show you this time how we've cut some of the data, different business questions we can answer from it. We talked a little bit about these widgets up here, the dollar sales and the unit sales and the average retail price. So dollar sales, of course, giving us the total revenue for whatever filter parameters we've set on the side of the screen. The units metric says units/grams. That's not intended to be units divided by grams. It's rather, depending on which category you look at, this number can either reflect units or grams. So the way to differentiate those two is anything that's sold in a pre-packaged container, like a vape cartridge or a chocolate little bar or a pack of gummies. Those are all equivalized to 1 unit. And then anything that's sold as a random weight item like deli style flour or shatter or wax, those are all categories that are equivalized to a gram. So be mindful of that as you start to look across categories, that this could be either units or grams. And then the average retail price is the intersection of dollars and units. Take dollars divided by units, and that'll get you your average retail price. One little nuance here with this average retail price, all of our data, all of our sales data, meaning pricing and revenue, is pre-tax and post-promotion. So that means that taxes are excluded from all pricing, and promotions or discounts are included in pricing. So the only exception to that is the California excise tax, which is a 15% tax that's intended to be baked into at-shelf costs. So that tax is included in our pricing data here. So those are our 3 indicator widgets, what we like to call up top the numbers, the indicator widgets. Let's drop on down here to the next 2 pie graphs here. So the pie graphs do a good job of showing us the different segments that are selling in dispensaries and how big each one is relative to one another. So I look at this dollar sales by category level 2 pie graph and say, okay, wow, this is good information to have. Almost a third of all sales are coming from concentrate items. That's good information to have, but I'd really like to know what's driving total concentrate sales. What are the things that exist underneath it that might be performing better than other segments underneath it? So I can get to that answer and more by using this functionality that we call drilling. So if I right-click on anything that's interesting to me, like a piece of pie here, or a bar chart down here, right-click, that piece of pie is going to start to stick out from the other pieces again. We'll get this tiny little box with the option to drill into different levels of detail here. So I can drill up or down in my product hierarchy or across my product attributes. So up or down in the product hierarchy, meaning the things that exist under concentrates, or across product attributes like cutting data by increments of $5 price bands. So we'll start this by looking at the different things that exist under total concentrates. So if I click on that, there's my option to drill. I'm going to drill from our level 2 down to the next level of granularity that we have in our system, which is level 3. So if I click on that level 3 link here, I'm going to tell the system to rework this pie graph and show me the different things that exist under total concentrates. Okay, good to know. So dabbable concentrates makes up a little bit more than total total concentrates than vape does. So let's start to break this category down a little bit. I want to understand the different dabbable concentrates that we track. So use that drill functionality, right-click on dabbable concentrates, and we'll move from level 3 now to the next level of detail, which is level 4. So I'm going to click on level 4 here. That's going to rework this pie graph one more time to start to show me things like shatter and live resin and wax. and distillate. So maybe the next question we have in our line of thinking is, okay, shatter is the biggest piece of the pie here. I want to understand how these types of items are priced on shelf. Well, I can right click on this, and if I go down to choose another, that'll pop up with a bigger box now with a search bar, and I can start to type in something like price. So all these options with the word price will appear, and we can cut data by $1 pricing increments all the way up to $1,000 pricing increments. So I like looking at this data by $5. I think that's the most clean and most insightful view to look at the data. So if we click on that, we're going to take that shatter data, that 28%, rework it, show me where the majority of shatter items are priced on shelf. So 37 is the biggest number that I see here. So that indicates to me that 37% of all shatter items in Colorado in Q1 of 2018 are priced from, or are sold from items that are priced between 15 and 20 bucks, 15 and 19.99. So that drill functionality is really key. Keep that in the back of your mind. We'll revisit that when we get into tabular reports in just a few minutes. In the meantime, I'm going to take us back to our original category level 2 page. I'll click on that X in the top left corner. And I want to kind of shift gears here now to talk a little bit about use cases within the data and how it can benefit your business. So we're going to stick on these pie graphs here. They do a good, as I mentioned earlier, they do a good job of showing how big the industry is and how big each one of the segments within the industry is. We can look at dollar sales and unit sales that make up the total size of the industry for each one of the segments that make up the total industry. So I want to start by looking at flower here. So we can see here that 44% of all dollar sales are coming from flower. Now, if we look at that in the unit sales, a whopping 71% of all unit sales are coming from flower, or gram sales are coming from flower. Now, concentrates, on the other hand, makes up 31% of all dollar sales, but only 10% of all unit sales. Okay, so that starts to give us a good representation of how these categories shake out a year ago, and really lets us know that there's a big difference in pricing between flower and concentrate. So, you know, a low percentage of unit sales make up a high percentage of dollar sales. That means that the items are expensive. Now, conversely, a high percentage of unit sales that make up a low percentage of dollar sales means they're relatively inexpensive items. So that's good to know. Now let's take a look at how the industry has grown and changed over the last year. So I'm going to go up to our time periods filter. I'm going to deselect Q1 2018 and look at Q1 2019. So if I click on that, and we'll start to see how these pie graphs change. And if we look now again at this dollar sales by level 2, we're going to see that flower went from making up 44% of all dollar sales down to 39%. So does that mean that flower is becoming less popular? Why are we seeing like a big difference between Q1 2018 and Q1 2019 in terms of dollar sales? Well, we can look at our unit sales graph to find that out. So if I look at this, the unit graph actually shows us that flower went up in unit sales from 71% to 72% of total sales. So what would lead to an increase in unit sales, but a decrease in dollar sales? Well, the answer is a change in price. So the average price per gram of flower is dropping just enough to cause consumers to keep finding value in purchasing flower, but retailers are not seeing quite as big of dollar sales returns on flower compared to a year ago. Now, on the other hand, we look at concentrates. Concentrates went up from 31% of all dollar sales to 35% of all dollar sales. So there's an increase in revenue. And if we look at the unit sales, we also see that they had an increase in unit sales from 10% to 11%. So if dollar sales are up and unit sales are up, how do we know what's driving that? Is that demand driven? Is it price driven? Well, we can start to take a look at the below graphs to find that out. So I'm going to go up here actually and change this time period to include everything. So we're looking at all time periods, and we can get a kind of bigger context of how these categories shake out. So I'll click on that. So I'll give it a second to load. So if we stay filtered on concentrates, I'm going to click on concentrates to make sure we're filtered there. if we stay filtered there, we can go down to this unit versus price tab, and we can see that there is, in fact, an increase in unit sales. So that's noted by the purple line here. We can see a steady increase in unit sales. And then the green line represents average retail price. So we see a steady decrease in price. But because unit sales are growing more than the price is decreasing, or in other words, the increase in demand is outweighing the decrease in cost, we see an overall increase in dollar sales in the category. So how do we know that? Well, to confirm that, we can look at this trend link. If we stay filtered on concentrates, I'll click on this trend link, and this is going to show us the dollar sales trend, not the unit sales trend like in this graph, but the dollar sales, the intersection of units and price. And if we look at time periods like April 2018, that's $39 million worth of concentrates are sold. Compare that to a year later, which is March of 2019, that's $49 million sold. So there's about a $10 million difference in an increase in that time period. Now, if we click on flour, for example, let's go over here, click on flour. The whole page is going to update for flour specific data. I'm going to go back to this units versus price tab, and we can see, once this loads, that, yeah, okay, so there is a decrease in flour pricing and a relatively, oh, there it is, okay. So there's a starker decrease in average retail price, and yes, an increase in unit sales, but not quite as much as concentrate. So let's look at how that affects total dollar sales by looking at the trend link, and we'll start to see what the flour dollar sales trend looks like. So if we look at those same time periods that we did for concentrates, we see in April 2018, there's $55 million of flour. And if we look in a year later, March 2019, there's another $55 million worth of flour. So because the entire industry is increasing, total sales across all dispensaries are increasing across all categories, and dollar sales are staying relatively flat from these two time periods, you can see that leads to a decrease in in dollar sales share, like what we saw jumping from 44% down to 39% in the pie graph above. So those are just some of the different ways that you can use the data and start to understand the market a little bit better, start to pick out trends, stay a step ahead of your competition to answer questions like that and really gain insight on where the market is today and where it's going. Cool. Okay, I'm going to go up to the top of our page. We'll focus now briefly on tabular reports. So we'll go back up to our NCIA reports tab. I'm going to drop down to tabular reports, and we can look at the overview of category sales. So where the dashboards do a really good job of visualizing the data, providing us with an executive summary style information, the tabular reports are designed to give us all of the detail that we track in the system in more of a data table format. So it's going to look a little bit more like an Excel spreadsheet, but it tracks all of the detail that we house in the system. It's a big page, so it takes a little bit of time to load. And when it does load, we'll see that it looks exactly like an Excel spreadsheet. So there's our metrics going along the top. We have divided the categories that we track out into level 2 and level 3, so you can start to get a good sense of what exists under what. The tabular reports operate really just like widgets in that they're downloadable. So I'm going to go to the top right corner, click on that 3 little vertical dots. There's my option to download an image, CSV, PDF, Excel file. I can still use the filters on the side of the screen to customize things like my time period and my geography. And I guess the only other thing I want to show here is that ability to drill still exists. So I'm going to go down here and let's drill into an edibles segment. So candy, I want to see what makes up total candy sales. I can do that. I can right click on candy. We're looking at level 3. This is a level 3 column here. So we'll drill down into the next level of detail that we track, which is level 4. And we'll start to see the different things that exist under candy and which segments of candy are driving the majority of that category. If I scroll up here, now we're looking at the edibles segment, and the candy segment specifically, now broken out by the different types of candy that we track. So you can use the metrics to sort ascending or descending start to figure out which segments are providing the most value, which ones are not, which ones are growing fastest, which ones are priced most expensively. So all that information is available to you at your fingertips through the Tabular Reports. Let's see, I think that is all I wanted to show today. So I'm going to X out of this, return us to our original Tabular Reports page, and I'll change this view so we're looking back at that PowerPoint presentation. I think we'll be opening up to questions now, and I think Jeremy will be kind of moderating that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for showing that to us, Andrew. Appreciate that.
Of course, yeah.
Really cool to see the power of the platform. And everybody who's with us still, please feel free to use that chat function and send in your questions. Richard has sent in a few questions already that I want to see if maybe we can answer. Possibly we might have to take it offline. One of them he did ask, though, I want to see if this is possible to show. He's asking, can you do side-by-side comparisons of time or trend time periods?
Yeah, so the best way to do that would be using some of those graphs. Let me get back into here. The Tabular Reports right now through the options we have here don't allow us to do a trended analysis very well, but if we go back to that category overview page, that allows us to look at some of those line graphs and trended views of data. So depending on which category you're looking at, I'll give this a second to load, but we have a couple of those widgets down towards the bottom that allow us to look at more trended information. So the dollar sales trend link is going to be a good one that allows you to look at dollar sales over time. This is Colorado. We have data going back to 2014. So all of that's outlined here. Of course, you can use the functionality here of clicking on the specific category that you want. This graph will update based on that click. And then the units versus price will also do a good job of showing a trended view of what the category looks like. So, and of course, all the data is downloadable. So if you don't like the way we visualize this, feel free to download this into a CSV file, and then you're able to make your own charts and graphs based on that.
Great. Couple other questions here. I have another one from Richard, was asking, on average, how many different dispensary companies do you have in the sample? And do you anticipate migrating to a census level data reporting on all dispensaries, not just a sample?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, gosh, it would be great to get to a census level. So right now we focus on 20 to 25% of the legally operating dispensaries in each of the states that we track. And that's a sample that's representative geographically and demographically of the entire state. So we're not just grabbing data from retailers in an urban area or just from a rural area or from socioeconomically high areas or just socioeconomically low areas. It's a mixture of all of those types of areas that are incorporated onto our panel. We, depending on state, those numbers can vary. Of course, there are, so I can't give you an exact number of exactly how many dispensaries there are in each state. But Richard, feel free to reach out to me and talk more about that. We can talk more about that offline if you'd like. Yeah, yeah, Richard, we can talk more about that offline.
Great. And Payal asks, as an NCI member, how do we access this platform? It's a great question. And it's also important to reiterate that any of you who are watching this, everything Andrew has shown is all free to you as a member of NCIA. So Payal, if you want to reach out to me directly, we'll put that slide back up on the screen so you can have my contact information. You can reach out to me and Andrew or just one of us, and we can get you that access. But generally how it works is within the first week of becoming a member, we get you access to that to their system. So if you don't have it yet, like I said, as soon as you join, we get you access, but we can help get you access right now. We got a few more minutes. If anybody has any other questions, one more that Richard had sent through was, it's for Andrew, do you track CBD performance across the country?
We do, yes. So if you upgrade access to a subscription with BDS Analytics specifically, you do have access to not only brand and item level detail, but we're also able to start to parse out different product attributes and understand maybe not just what brands or what items are selling well, but what about those brands and items are selling well. So CBD content is something that we do track for some categories. Also things like flavor and pack count and cartridge size. So all of those things are things that we can track. So yes, we do CBD and a number of other product attributes.
Great. And well, it looks like that's all the questions we have right now, but don't let that stop. If anyone has any other questions, you can see on the slide our contact information. Feel free to reach out anytime. It is important to note too that based on the level of membership you have with NCIA, you get increased access to the BDS data. You can find that chart on our website, thecannabisindustry.org, about the different levels of access. And just to touch on what Andrew mentioned, that they have separate subscriptions they sell outside of what's accessible by members. At the highest tier of our membership, there is a discount on their, if your business needs are enough that you need increased access and you do purchase a subscription through BDS specifically, our highest tier membership does offer a discount through that. So that's important to know. And all that information can be found up on our website, cannabisindustry.org. Obviously, you can reach out to me and Andrew at any time for more information. Last question from Philip here says, do you have webinars regularly? Philip, we do have webinars. We are doing webinars monthly right now with the anticipation of increasing that in 2020. So just keep an eye on our events page, and we list them there. But yeah, just about every month we have a webinar. Either it's through our committees or things like that. This one is focused on a member benefit. But if you want more information about that, you can feel free to reach out as well. Well, it doesn't seem like there's any more questions or anything. You guys have our contact information if anyone has any questions, but I just want to say thanks so much to everybody for attending this. Andrew, thank you for your time to showcase this really great membership benefit for NCI members.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to be here. Thanks everybody for joining. And as Jeremy mentioned, our contact information is up on the screen, so feel free to reach out to either he or I with any questions you may have.
Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day.